I'm Shivani Gupta. I'm obsessed with small to medium businesses growing. As business owners, we take so much risk and we want to make sure it's worth it. I believe one of the best presents you can give yourself as a business owner is to be able to learn how to scale your people, your profit, and your processes. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Grow Your Business podcast. I'm so excited today to have you meet our guest, Sally Duxfield. I had the opportunity to meet this remarkable woman last year. There are so many things I can tell you about her. CV actually is about 5 pages long, and she has been featured in Forbes HR Council and worked with them. She runs her own training and delivery programs. She is also the owner and director of the Elite Leadership Village, and she delivers a lot of different programs that we're going to get into. She's also worked with a variety of industries, including the Defence Force and the Army, agricultural industry, builders, construction industries, and a whole heap of service industries as well, including lawyers, accountants, and IT. And she designs retreat programs, and just so that there is complete transparency, I just wanted to let you know that Sally and I have teamed up, and we are going to also be running some retreats together, and we'll dive into some of that later. But before I give you more things about her background, let me introduce you. Welcome, Sally.
Thanks, Shivani. I'm sorry, I've just got a little bit of a lag time here in my rural location. So thank you so much for that kind introduction. It's really great to be here today.
Like I said, I had to abbreviate it because it was pretty long and you've done some amazing things in your life already. Now, Sally, the first question I wanted to ask is, so many of us, we all face adversity and challenges that come our way. And, what are some of the ones that have, that you've overcome? Tell us about 2 or 3 of those key transformational moments in terms of what has got you and transformed you into who you are today.
Such a good question, Shivani. I think, like many women of my age, I'm in my sixth decade, and we had a family unit where it was pretty traditional. And I don't know about your relationship with your mother, but my relationship was, I knew she loved me, but it was never expressed. And it was always, I never felt quite good enough. She's British. She was brought up by a British Army officer. There was always this thing about perfection and excellence, and I never, ever felt quite good enough. So I spent my whole childhood trying to be a good girl, and then my whole teenage years trying to be a good girl. And I joined the military as an officer, and I had these times where I was a little naughty and pushed the boundaries, but I never liked getting in trouble. And so I've spent my whole life, probably my first 4 decades, actually pleasing people, doing a massive amount of peacekeeping, not standing in my own strength, fighting for everybody else. I'll fight like tooth and nail for everybody else, but for me, I would acquiesce. And then even in my marriage of 32 years, for the first sort of 25 years, I acquiesced on things that were important to me. And it wasn't till I think I was probably 50 and I stood in my light and said, you know what, I think I'm actually quite good at what I do. And I deserve my success, but that's still not palatable. Even when I say it now, I find that difficult. And I think that's probably been the challenge that's gone through all of the different areas I've worked in, is that belief of I have a right to be in the space. I am an expert because I spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours of learning and practicing and teaching. So I think overcoming that childhood not quite good enough and wanting to be a pleaser has infiltrated everything in my life.
Yeah, amazing, isn't it? And sometimes those adversities, as you said, and I think we've shared, we've got similar backgrounds on similar relationships with mothers there too, Sally. And so a lot of our audience today is talking about growing their business. And so have you got like a golden nugget or a couple of nuggets that for the people that are listening in terms of how to grow their business? You've seen that and you help a lot of businesses. You've obviously a business owner yourself. Tell us about a couple of, or even one golden nugget that you might have on that area.
I think the most important thing is don't be delusional and have a plan. There are so many business coaches, even teachers, start right from the start telling you you can be whatever you want to be. To be really blunt, sometimes I'm not smart enough to be an astronaut. I might have been delusional, I want to be an astronaut, but I'm not smart enough. So what we need to do, I think, is be really realistic about what our skill base is now, the skills that we need to chase our dream. So if we have a dream that's bigger than who we are now, which hopefully we have, then what skills do I need to acquire? And then for the delivery of that dream, turning it into a plan, is having really strong accountability rollout of that plan. So on what date, by which time will I need to deliver this, and who's going to hold me accountable? Because otherwise a dream is just a dream. So unless we plan and we're really, really realistic, I'm seen women over, and predominantly women who have been encouraged by a life coach to follow their passion. And I remember one gorgeous conversation with a woman who wanted to be a painter. So she left a middle management job of a really good income to become a painter, and she painted rocks, and they sold for about $3.50 each. You have to sell a lot of rocks, Shivani, to make up a $100,000 salary. So that's delusional. That's not realistic. What she perhaps could have done is spent a 0.5 of a day a week growing her skills as an artist and chasing that and setting up, and so that there's this balance. And at some stage she may well have been able to go back to a 0.5 job and a 0.5 of her passion. But we need to be really careful about delusion, being realistic, and then building our skills, and then having that really, really strong delivery plan of on which day, at which time am I going to deliver which part of this program.
Yeah, that's so true, isn't it? Because, and even people that have got startups happening, that they're a little bit delusional sometimes in terms of what they can make. And I spoke to a client the other day who's doing around, 200K plus revenue, but wants to grow to $1 million in the next year and doesn't have that plan in place to be able to do that. Absolutely, that's possible, but certainly not in the next sort of 12 months. So yeah, beautiful there. What about your top tips in dealing with people? You deal with so much variety of people. You've grown up and spent some time in the military. You talk to people all the time. You're running retreats. Tell us about some of your top, tips in terms of dealing with people.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it, Shivani? If we're all such different natures. And I think my growth in this area has been in the last 20 years, and that as a young woman, I had a pretty strong opinion. And I was always halfway through formulating my response before you'd finish speaking. So I've learned to sit back. And in fact, I use the old cognitive tool of a little wristband, and I can give myself a flick when I want to lean into that answering before I've listened space. So I think curiosity, tell me more about that, be deeply curious and deeply nurturing in that curiosity. But also I think one of the biggest things I see in organization is the he said, she said, they said, I said. And there'll be a leader or a manager with people, and one person said that this is what happened, and another person said, and no one pulls them into the courage triangle of what I call it. So I coach a piece that I call the courage triangle, where a leader or a manager would pull the two people that have friction into the room, and they would become a strong head within that triangle, and they would facilitate. And you can't tell fibs in front of the other person when you know exactly what you've said between these two, and you're the curiosity. So you are drawing out where the conflict is. Otherwise, we say one thing to one person and we say another thing to another person, and then they get together and go, well, she didn't say that to me. And so I think leading people is form a really strong courage triangle when you have transparent conversations, and don't have those one-on-ones, unless they're about personal things. But if it's operational, it's transparent, we all need to know and drive the mission. So I think it's that curiosity first, listen really well. I mean, God did give us 2 ears and 1 mouth. And then make sure that courageous conversation is done, so that we can hold each person accountable in a loving way.
Yeah, beautiful. That's really, really, beautifully put. And you're seeing that, as things become more transparent, you're seeing more businesses, more people, more CEOs exposed now because everything's so much more transparent. So having that courage triangle, as you talked about, and having that courage to be able to open to everybody is great. And so, Sally, there must be so many challenges that come your way, your way in personal business. We've already talked about a couple of those. Do you have like a process or a system or rituals? Like, how do you deal with that? Like, some people go, right, when that comes in, this is kind of what I do. And so be really curious about understanding how you deal with challenges when they come your way.
Well, I have that personality, Shivani, that give me a good wall or crash a plane, and I'm like a peg in a trough. I love challenge. It just sparks me and inspires me. So when challenge comes my way, rather than seeing it as a negative thing, I see it as a huge opportunity for solutions and being really innovative. So the bigger the challenge, the more excited I am. And I also really drive. I remember President Obama talking about the 51% rule. So when we want to make a decision, that if the bias is 51% in favor of an option, then drive that option, at least start moving, and then we can change course as we go. But if I use the metaphor of a ship sitting at a wharf, the ship is always sitting at the wharf if we can't make a decision as to which island we're sailing to. But if we say we're going to Hawaii and we leave and we start towards Hawaii, but halfway there we decide to jig via Western Samoa, we can do that. But what we can't do is sit and not make decisions. So for me, challenges are opportunities for innovation. The 51% bias. So when I have a solution that has a 51% bias, I'll drive it. And then I'm just constantly testing that decision once it's going. So I'm not a non-action person. I drive projects. It's one of my gifts, I guess, is just that driving, but also that deep nurture. And in fact, I was just working with some children the last week, some teenagers who were doing leadership, and they were given a map and they became the leader of the group, and they all went up the front and ran away with the map and had no idea of what their team was going. Whereas for me, when I was able to give them some mentoring, it was actually, why don't you as the leader sit at the back, and then you can watch all of the members of your team and you can drive direction. It's like herding cats, but you can do it with love, and you can do a little piece here, and you can strengthen this piece here, and you can pat the dog here, and you can drive it. Whereas from the front, you see nothing. So I think those challenges is be excited by them, see the opportunity, and reach out, be curious. Other people, who else has done this before? The first question you ask, has anyone in my team done this before? So yeah, ask questions, be curious, and drive solutions.
Yeah, beautiful. That's beautifully and eloquently put. Sally, you've done so many things already in your life. What about some of the future things? What are some of the future things that you're aspiring to, whether they be in business, personal? Tell us a little bit about that in terms of what are the things that you're excited about for the future.
Well, Shivani, it might be with you actually. With transparency here, my
Yes.
vision for my sixth decade is to travel internationally for 5 or 6 months of the year, to retreat with extraordinary people, and to change lives. Sorry, I've got a dog just barking. Let me just, two shakes. Sorry. X, come here. Sorry, there's a man outside my window, which is a little strange. Let me just have
I've
the dog.
got, that's okay. And I've got two kids that started school holidays today. So you know what? It's
A shoe thrown at a
get it.
dog. Yeah, I've just come back to the office, which doesn't happen very often. As you know, I'm living at my retreat. So my vision is, dog under my arm now. My vision is to travel, to run these international retreats where we can serve entrepreneurs specifically so that they can live these joyful lives of sustainable peak performance. And so the vision now is to release the land that I own and the businesses I own within the next 3 to 5 years as a strategy, and move into the nomad space of working with an extraordinary associate and changing the lives of people that we can do. So that will be my joy, my 6th and 7th decade.
Beautiful. Love that. Mental wellness. Mental wellness is something that I'm really super passionate about. And I want to know what you do to manage yours. Again, because you give away so much of who you are in all the different pieces of work that you do. You know, do you have rituals? Do you do them daily, weekly, yearly? Like, what are some of the things that you do to manage your own mental wellness?
Really good, and so important for all of us in business. And you're right, and particularly as mothers and wives and husbands and partners, we give so much to other people. So because the neurobiology of peak performance is my space, it's my gig. So for me, it's exercise, hydration, sleep. I mean, sleep, you cannot out exercise or out nutrition poor sleep. So the biohacks that I work with around deep sleep and those sleep cycles are things that I do for myself. I have become really, really functional and quite rigid about my exercise and my nutrition, the hydration. for the last while to great effect. So I'm noticing those huge changes. And then the rituals and routines of the same thing. So journaling every night, but getting to bed with exactly the same ritual in the same order every night. So not only have we got the neurobiology of it, we've got psychological safety. So embedding those rituals and routines. The one piece I need to lean into more is my spiritual well-being. And that is something that will come as I journey out of running an operational business where you're down in the weeds quite regularly. So I'll have more space for that part of me. But I certainly do the journaling and reflection at the end of the day for my mental well-being.
Beautiful. I've heard you present on some of that sort of biohacks, and it was just extraordinary. And for those of you listening, check out some of the work that Sally does. So Sally, where's the best place to contact you? Also tell us about the link for the retreat, but where do people follow you? What platforms are you on? Where can people find you and also start to see some of the work that you do?
So to reach out, just Sally at sallyduxfield.com is the best. Just email me. On my website, sallyduxfield.com, LinkedIn, Sally Duxfield. My Facebook page is Sally Duxfield Experiential. But basically, I'm not a great. I'm a extroverted introvert, so I'm very poor with socials, and I need to. That's one of my growth places for this year, as we know. But yeah, reach out that way and speak to me. And then the next 6 months, you'll see a bigger presence in socials as I seek help for that, and someone's going to support me through that journey.
Beautiful, Sally. We'll stay online for a couple of minutes. Thank you so much for being on here today. I'm so excited to be able to run these retreats with you and transform other people's lives, which is one of my missions as well. Really appreciate you. I know we could probably have a 3-hour conversation, but wanted to get parts of you out into the world. So thank you so much for being on.
Thank you so much, Shivani, for the opportunity.
I'm Shivani Gupta, and you've been listening to the Grow Your Business podcast. I hope you got one idea that you can think about or perhaps even implement straight away in your business. Thank you for listening. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn under Ask Shivani. Remember, I call it Ask Shivani, so please send me your questions that I can address in this podcast for you. And I would also so appreciate if you went to the Apple Podcast to rate and review this podcast.